Elder John T. Caine was the next speaker. He desired to say such things as might be prompted by the Holy Spirit. He had had the honor of representing Utah in Congress. From the opening of the late season, attempts were made to pass additional proscriptive legislation. Endeavors of that kind had been common for the last 5 years. The latest effort was to obtain a measure to secure the control of the territory to a minority, and especially to give them the power to manipulate the public funds. This was the object of those in our midst. With those outside of the territory it was different. Their desire was to regulate the domestic affairs of the people of Utah. They took the ground that if plural marriage is allowed to exist, that system would spread and endanger the marital system prevalent in the nation. On this subject a false sentiment had been built up in the country by means of fabrications and slanders. In this way erroneous ideas had been established. There were not a few, however, who understood the question just as it is, and were opposed to all the measures of the kind aimed at Utah. Owing to the tide of popular feeling, they were a little reluctant to assert themselves. If the country could be properly informed on the main subject, there would be no difficulty, as opposition would either cease or be so modified that it would scarcely be felt. The Speaker, after stating that the Edmunds-Tucker Bill was one of the most un-American and un-Republican measures ever passed by Congress, gave some details regarding the tactics employed by its friends to have it rushed through the legislative mill without discussion. The measure as it passed was a hard one upon the Mormon people, yet, having been modified before its final passage, it had been shorn of many of its worst features and gave its promoters no comfort. If all of its provisions had been eliminated except that which gave the governor power to appoint the officers throughout the territory, it would have been a great victory to the schemers. Congress was not prepared to go that far to satisfy a popular sentiment. The section which declared the plural marital status to be polygamy punishable with a 5 years penalty had fortunately been struck down. No new penalties and disabilities were incorporated in the bill, as it finally passed against polygamists. There were, however, within its provisions, punishments aimed at non-Mormon criminals. There was no desire in the administration to deprive the people of Utah of their rights as American citizens. It had been said that President Cleveland had been in favor of the Edmunds-Tucker Bill. This was not true. The Speaker had it personally from the lips of the Chief Executive that there were provisions in the measure that he did not and could not approve, and therefore he did not sign the bill. He, the President, also wished the people to know that so far as he was concerned, there would be no vindictiveness on the part of the government in the enforcement of such laws. They must be applied in the same way as all other laws. He was not in favor of the extraordinary and cruel methods adopted by certain officers in that regard. It might appear strange in view of the President's opinions and sentiments that the evils that had existed in the courts here were not immediately cured. It must be remembered that this was a great nation, with extensive and elaborate interests. So far as the escheating clauses of the Edmunds-Tucker Bill were concerned, he had no apprehension that there was any desire on the part of the government to rob the church of property belonging to it. Regarding the test oath, he had been assured by the leading men who composed the committee of conference on the bill that it did not enter the domain of belief, neither did it involve or interfere with the rights of church membership, or supporting it by the payment of tithing or other legislative methods. The Speaker was glad that those who belonged to the party who had sought the destruction of popular government in Utah had, at the first election at Brigham City, held under the auspices of the new law, gone beyond their authority. They had gone into the region of belief in church membership. This had enabled the Speaker to inform President Cleveland that what he had feared had actually been done. He had no idea that any such illegal proceeding would again be resorted to, as it would be an unprofitable business to those who engaged in it. The Speaker concluded by an exhortation to all to maintain the principles of human freedom.